Don't you dare. You are not going to try and steal your sister's credit. My mom's voice rang through the living room, sharp and accusing. I sat frozen, my face burning with rage. It was Christmas Eve at my parents' house. Just me, my sister Olivia, who was out getting candy, our parents, and my cousin Na. The tree was glowing, the air smelled of pine and cinnamon, but all I could feel was the crushing weight of their judgment. My name is Sophie. I'm 28 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the afterthought in my own family. Olivia, the golden child, could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I couldn't breathe without being criticized. But this time, it wasn't just about their usual dismissive attitude. It was about the truth. Since July, I had been quietly sending my parents money every month to help with their bills. But somehow, Olivia had taken all the credit, and as always, my parents believed her without question. When I finally tried to set the record straight, my mother shut me down like I was some liar desperate for attention. My throat tightened, my hands curled into fists. I wanted to scream, to demand they believe me, but the words got stuck. Then, Na, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, finally spoke. "Wait a second," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. "How do you even know Olivia's been sending the money? Have you ever seen proof?" My parents stared at her like she had grown a second head. My dad waved his hand dismissively. Of course, Olivia wouldn't lie about something like that. She's been the responsible one since day one. Responsible. That word hit me like a slap to the face. For 6 months, I had tightened my budget, skipped nights out with friends, and given up things I really wanted just to help them. And yet, Olivia somehow managed to swoop in and make me look like the selfish one. Just as I was about to respond, the front door swung open, and Olivia waltzed in, a bag of candy swinging from her hand. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice annoyingly cheerful. She took one look at my mom's flushed face and my clenched fists and immediately slipped into her innocent act, tilting her head like she had no idea what was happening. "You need to explain to your sister," my mom said, her voice trembling with anger. She pointed a shaky finger at me. "She's trying to claim she's been helping us financially when we all know it's been you." Olivia froze for a split second, her eyes darting to me, then to Na. But then, she put on her sweetest smile. "Oh, Mom," she laughed, setting the candy down. "I'm sure Sophie just misunderstood." She turned to me, her expression dripping with fake concern. "You know I've been handling this for months now. I didn't want to burden you with it." I stared at her, floored by her audacity. "Misunderstood," I echoed, my voice trembling with barely contained fury. "I've been sending them money since July, every single month. And you knew that, Olivia. Don't you dare act like this was some mix-up." Na folded her arms and shot Olivia a glare. "Yeah, Olivia," she said, her tone razor-sharp. "Care to explain why you've never mentioned it before?" For the first time, Olivia's fake smile faltered. But she recovered quickly, flipping her hair over her shoulder as if none of this mattered. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said smoothly, her voice laced with condescension. "I've been helping out because, unlike you, I actually care about Mom and Dad's well-being." That was it. Something inside me snapped. "Are you serious right now?" I shot up so fast my chair scraped loudly against the floor. "You've been letting them believe a lie for months. You knew I was the one sending the money, but you just stood there and let them think it was you. Why? So you could play the hero." Na held up a hand like a referee stepping into a fight. "Hold on," she said. "There's an easy way to settle this. Did Olivia ever actually show you proof? Bank statements? Screenshots? Anything?" My parents exchanged awkward glances. My mom stammered. "Well, no, but we didn't think we needed to. Olivia said she was doing it." Olivia whipped around to face Na, her smile finally gone. "You're out of place here, Na," she snapped, her voice sharp and defensive. "This is a family matter, and frankly, you don't know the first thing about what's been going on." Na didn't back down. "Oh, I think I know enough," she shot back, her tone icy. "I've watched you bask in praise for something you didn't even do. You've been feeding them lies, and you know it." Olivia let out a sarcastic laugh, shaking her head. "You're unbelievable," she muttered, yanking out her phone. "Fine. If you want proof, here." She scrolled through her files, then held up the screen. See? These are the receipts for the transfers I've been making. Like clockwork. My mom's face softened as she glanced at the PDFs. But I knew better. My heart pounded as I stepped closer. Let me see those, I demanded, snatching the phone before Olivia could pull away. The receipts looked convincing. Her name, the amounts, the transaction IDs. But something felt off. Na leaned over to look with me. This is a lie, I exploded, my voice shaking the walls. The room went dead silent. But I wasn't done. You faked these, Olivia. Don't act like you've been sending them money when you haven't sent a single dime. My chest heaved as I glared at her, daring her to deny it. This time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not anymore. I don't know. Maybe I went too far, Na muttered, avoiding Olivia's glare. She wasn't going to take sides anymore, not with the tension this high. Olivia just smirked, clutching her phone to her chest like a shield. Fine, I snapped, yanking out my own phone. You want proof? I'll show you my bank statements right now. My hands trembled as I opened my banking app, only for the screen to freeze. No, I muttered under my breath, tapping furiously. It wasn't working. I closed the app, reopened it, tried again. Nothing. Come on, I hissed, panic rising in my chest. How convenient, Olivia said smugly, crossing her arms. The one time you need to prove something, your phone just doesn't work? Sounds legit. Sophie enough. My father's voice boomed as he stood, towering over me. You've embarrassed yourself enough already. If you can't back up your story, you owe your sister an apology right now. His tone was ice cold. Final. And if you don't, you can pack your things and leave. I'm not letting you ruin Christmas with your jealousy. I froze, feeling the weight of their stares. Apologize. I spat, my voice cracking. For what? For telling the truth. For being tired of living in her shadow. My father didn't waver. He just pointed to the door. You have 5 minutes to decide. I didn't wait. I grabbed my coat and walked out into the freezing night, slamming the door behind me. Tears blurred my vision as I made my way to my car. I had never felt so small, so lost. Christmas was supposed to be about family, but all I felt was how little I belonged in mine. I drove aimlessly, the holiday lights along the streets blurring together as I replayed the confrontation over and over. How could Olivia do this? How could my parents believe her without a second thought? I didn't even realize where I was going until I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour coffee shop. The bright lights inside felt out of place against the stillness of the night. Sliding into a booth, I grabbed my phone, still shaking with anger and humiliation. My banking app stared back at me, useless. Every time I tried to log in, I got the same frustrating message. We're experiencing a major technical issue. All services, including ATMs, are temporarily unavailable. We're working to resolve this as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. Patience. I needed proof now. I refreshed the app again and again, as if sheer willpower could force it to work. But it was no use. The universe had it out for me tonight. An hour passed. I was still staring at my phone, empty coffee cups scattered around me, when a message popped up. Nah. Hey, are you okay? I've been thinking, and if you need a place to crash, my door is open. I'm not sure what to believe right now, but you've always been honest with me. Let me know. For the first time that night, I let out a shaky breath. Now believe me. Or at least part of her did. She was torn, and I couldn't blame her. Olivia's so-called proof had been convincing enough. And with my app down, I had nothing but my word to fight back. Still, her message gave me a glimmer of hope. At least someone wasn't completely against me. My parents lived in a small town, the kind where everyone knew everyone's business. I had only come back for the holidays, hoping for a quiet Christmas with family. Instead, I found myself driving through empty streets to Na's house, clutching the steering wheel as if it could hold me together. When I pulled into her driveway, she was already at the door, wrapped in a blanket, holding a mug of tea. Come in, she said softly, her expression a mix of worry and hesitation. I stepped inside, and she didn't press me to talk right away. She just handed me a mug and led me to the couch, where I finally let out the breath I'd been holding since I walked out of my parents' house. I'm not lying, Na, I said after a few minutes of silence. My voice cracked, but I forced myself to keep going. I swear to you, I've been sending them money every month since July. Olivia knew, and she let them think it was her. Those receipts she showed? They're fake. I know they are. Na nodded slowly, still unsure. I believe you, she said hesitantly. But you have to admit, it doesn't look great right now. Especially with your app not working. It's like the perfect storm. I know, I whispered, frustration boiling over. But tomorrow, if the bank system is back up, I'll show them the proof. I'm not stepping foot in that house on Christmas Day unless I can prove Olivia's been lying. Na sat back, thoughtful. Everyone's going to be there tomorrow, she said quietly. Your parents, Olivia, the whole family. If you walk in with proof, there's no way she can weasel her way out of it. Exactly, I said firmly. I'm not going to let her keep making me the bad guy. Not anymore. Na gave me a small, encouraging smile. Well, you can stay here as long as you need to. And tomorrow, let's hope the bank system is back up. The next morning, I woke up feeling a sliver of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the universe had decided to cut me some slack. I reached for my phone and opened the banking app. My stomach dropped. We're still experiencing a major technical issue. Services remain unavailable. Thank you for your patience. I groaned, running a hand through my messy hair. Still down, I muttered, tossing the phone onto the bedside table. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing for alternatives. How was I supposed to prove anything without access to my account? A soft knock at the door. Na peeked in, holding 2 mugs of coffee. Her face fell when she saw mine. Still no luck. I shook my head, taking the mug from her. Nothing. I don't know what to do, Na. I can't just walk in there with my word against Olivia's. They'll never believe me. She sat down beside me, tucking her legs under her. There's got to be another way, she said, thinking out loud. Can you call your bank? Maybe they can verify the transfers over the phone. I looked at her, hope flickering. Maybe, just maybe, I still had a chance that I considered it for a moment, but I knew it wouldn't work. Even if I called the bank, my parents wouldn't sit there and listen. They'd dismiss it as another excuse. Besides, it was Christmas Day, and all the bank branches were closed. Still, I tried. I dialed the customer service line, gripping my phone like it was my last lifeline. We're experiencing high call volumes due to a technical issue. Please try again later. I hung up, frustration boiling over. Of course, everyone must have been calling for the same reason. And now I was completely stuck. I have to think of another way, I muttered, more to myself than to Na. I can't just show up empty-handed. I sat at Na's kitchen table, staring blankly at my coffee cup, feeling utterly trapped. Every option was a dead end. There has to be a way, I murmured again. Na was scrolling through her phone nearby, but I barely noticed. My mind was spinning, searching for something, anything I could use. And then it hit me. The emails. Every time I made a transfer to my parents, my bank sent me an automatic confirmation email. Those wouldn't be tied to the app or the bank's current technical issues that I nearly dropped my phone as I scrambled to open my inbox. My fingers flew across the screen, searching. And then there they were. Clear as day. Monthly confirmation emails from July through December, each one showing the exact amounts I had transferred. Each one linked to my parents' account. Na! I practically shouted, spinning my phone around for her to see. She leaned in, eyes widening as she scanned the emails. Oh my God, she breathed. Sophie, this is it. This is all the proof you need. Relief and determination flooded through me at the same time. My hands were still shaking, but this time, it wasn't out of fear. It was from the rush of knowing I had something solid, something Olivia couldn't lie her way out of. You've got her now, Na said, her voice steady with confidence. There's no way she can talk her way out of this. I nodded, gripping my phone like a weapon. I'm going to that house, but only with this proof in hand. If she tries to deny it, I'll show them these emails right in front of everyone. For the first time in hours, I felt in control again. Olivia's lies were about to unravel. And this time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. As I stared at the confirmation emails, relief washed over me, followed quickly by a wave of embarrassment. How had I not thought of this sooner? It was so obvious. But then again, I hadn't been thinking clearly since last night. I'd been too overwhelmed by the fight by the accusations, by the sheer humiliation of being called a liar in front of everyone. My mind had been spinning in 100 different directions, just trying to hold itself together. God, I muttered, shaking my head at myself. I feel so stupid for not checking my email sooner. It's been sitting here this whole time. Na reached over and squeezed my arm. Don't beat yourself up, she said gently. You've been through a lot in the past 24 hours. It's no wonder you didn't think of it right away. The important thing is that you found it now. Her reassurance helped ease some of the shame, though I still felt a little ridiculous. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was coming next. Okay, I said, sitting up straighter. I've got the proof. I'm going over there and setting the record straight. If they still don't believe me after this, then that's on them. Na nodded, her expression firm. I've got your back, Sophie. Let's go show them the truth. Pulling into my parents' driveway, I gripped the steering wheel and took a deep breath. The house was decorated with twinkling lights, a cheerful wreath hanging on the door. It felt like a cruel joke. I wasn't here to celebrate. I was here to expose the truth. Na gave me a small nod of encouragement as we stepped out of the car and walked up to the door. My heart pounded, but I kept my head high. My mom opened the door, her face tight with disapproval. So, you decided to come back, she said, her tone sharp enough to make me flinch. Behind her, Olivia leaned casually against the wall, smirking. Did you come to apologize, Sophie? She asked, her voice dripping with mockery. Further back, my dad stood with his arms crossed, looking like he'd rather slam the door in my face. I forced a small, hesitant smile. I just want to celebrate Christmas with the family, I said softly, making my voice sound apologetic. I don't want any more drama. My mom narrowed her eyes, but stepped aside to let me in. As I passed Olivia, she let out a quiet snort, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. Took you long enough to come crawling back. I clenched my fist, but kept my face neutral. Let her think I'd given up. Let them all think. Because in just a few minutes, everything was about to change, that I was just here to endure and move on. So, I played along, smiling faintly, staying out of the way, as the house slowly filled with relatives. Cousins, aunts, uncles, they all greeted me warmly, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. As we sat down for dinner, my heart pounded. I knew Olivia wouldn't be able to resist. It was only a matter of time before she twisted the truth, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain. All I had to do was wait and be ready. It didn't take long. As dishes were passed around and polite conversation filled the air, Olivia cleared her throat dramatically. Well, she began, casting a smug glance my way, I think we all need to address the elephant in the room. The table fell silent. She leaned back in her chair, feigning concern. You know, last night was really tough for me. Her voice trembled, just enough to seem genuine. I never thought Sophie could stoop so low as to accuse me of lying. It was honestly heartbreaking. My stomach twisted as whispers spread around the table. A few relatives were already casting judgmental glances my way, while others looked too stunned to react. Olivia wasn't done. I've always tried to be there for this family, she continued, layering on the performance. Sending money every month to help Mom and Dad, never asking for recognition. And for her to turn around and call me a liar in front of everyone? It's beyond hurtful. Her voice wavered. Her eyes shimmered. A flawless act. My mother, looking particularly wounded, reached for Olivia's hand. You didn't deserve that, she said firmly. We've always known you were the responsible one. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the table. My aunts and cousins stared at me like I was the worst person in the world. I gripped my phone under the table, my pulse pounding in my ears. I had waited for this moment, but now that it was here, the pressure was suffocating. Then Olivia dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, pausing just long enough for me to strike. That's enough. My voice was calm, steady. Every head turned toward me, some in surprise, others in outright disdain. I stood, tightening my grip on my phone. You've had your chance to talk, Olivia. Now it's my turn. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. Oh, here we go again. I ignored her and turned to the table instead. I've been sending Mom and Dad money every month since July, I said, my voice unwavering. I don't make speeches about it. I don't ask for recognition. But when Olivia stood there last night, claiming she was the one doing it. I couldn't stay quiet. I lifted my phone, scrolling to my email inbox. And now I can prove it. I held up the screen. These are my receipts. They come directly from my bank, showing every transfer I made, exact dates, exact amounts, all deposited into Mom and Dad's account. Olivia leaned back, smirking. "Oh, please," she said, waving a hand dismissively. "Anyone can fake an email these days. You really expect everyone to believe that?" My frustration bubbled over. My receipts came straight from the bank servers. They're not fake. I locked eyes with my parents. "And if you're so confident, let's check the dates." "Mom, Dad, did you even bother to check the transfer dates on Olivia's receipts last night? Because I bet they don't match mine." A flicker of hesitation crossed my mother's face. My father shifted in his chair, scratching his chin. "We didn't check," he admitted. "We just assumed." I let out a sharp breath. "You just assumed she was telling the truth," I echoed. Without a second thought. Silenced, I crossed my arms. "Well, now you have a chance to see for yourselves. Go check your ATM statements. They show the account numbers for every deposit. You don't need a bank app for that." Olivia's smirk faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Fine," she snapped. "Let them check. I have nothing to hide." My parents exchanged a wary glance. My mother hesitated, as if hoping this could all just disappear. "It's Christmas," she said weakly. "Do we really have to?" "Yes," I interrupted, my voice unwavering. "We do." Reluctantly, my dad grabbed his coat. The three of us left for the nearest ATM. The cold night air stung my skin as we drove in silence, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down on us. At the ATM, my dad inserted his card and pulled up the transaction history. Slowly, he scrolled through the dates, matching them against the emails on my phone. Then came the moment of truth. A July deposit. My father tapped into the details, his eyes narrowing as the account number appeared. It matched mine. He checked August, September, October. Every single one aligned perfectly with my records. My mother stared at the screen, her face draining of color. "It's Sophie's account," she whispered, barely audible. "Every one of these transfers came from Sophie." A breathless pause, and then, in a voice thick with disbelief, she added, "Olivia actually took the time to fake her statements, just in case we would ask one day." The drive home was silent. My parents didn't say a word, their faces a mix of shame and quiet horror. When we walked back into the house, the murmurs of conversation in the living room came to an abrupt halt. All eyes turned toward us. The weight of the truth settled over the room, thick and suffocating. And then we saw. Olivia was by the door, yanking on her coat with frantic movements, clutching her purse so tightly her knuckles turned white. The confident smirk she had worn all night was gone, replaced by a panicked, guilty expression. "Olivia," my dad's voice cut through the tense air. He stepped forward, his face unreadable. "We checked the statements. Every transfer came from Sophie's account." A heavy silence settled over the room. "You've been lying to us." Gasps rippled through the family. A few relatives exchanged awkward glances, shifting uncomfortably. The weight of their misplaced trust in Olivia was evident. One by one, they began gathering their things, mumbling hurried goodbyes as they shuffled toward the door. Olivia's facade finally cracked. She let out a bitter laugh, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Fine," she snapped, spinning around to face us. "Yes, I lied, okay? Is that what you want to hear?" "I lied." Her voice trembled with frustration as she turned her glare on me. "You told me back in July that you didn't want a big deal made about sending them money," she accused. "That you just wanted to help quietly. So I thought, what's the harm in letting them think it was me? They already see me as the responsible one anyway." Her words hit like a punch to the gut. "I told you that because I trusted you," I said, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. "I thought maybe, for once, you'd support me. Instead, you used it to make yourself look good, while I was left feeling invisible. Do you even realize how humiliating this has been for me?" For a brief moment, Olivia's expression softened. But then, just as quickly, she hardened again, crossing her arms. "They were never going to believe you over me, Sophie," she muttered bitterly. I didn't think it would blow up like this." My mother stepped forward, her voice unsteady. "Why, Olivia," she whispered. "Why would you do this? We would have been grateful to either of you for helping. There was no reason for this." Olivia said nothing. She grabbed her keys and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The house fell into silence, a silence so thick, so heavy, it was almost suffocating. Finally, my dad turned to me, his face lined with regret. "Sophie," he said, his voice heavy with guilt, "we owe you an apology. A huge one. We should have listened to you. But we didn't. And we're sorry." My mom nodded, tears streaking down her face. "We've treated you unfairly for so long," she whispered. "And this was inexcusable. I don't know if we can ever make it up to you, but we'll try. I promise." I stood there, taking in their words, unsure how to feel. A part of me wanted to forgive them, to let go of all the pain. But another part still ached from years of being overlooked. "I appreciate the apology," I said finally, my voice quiet but firm. "But this doesn't erase everything. It's going to take time." They nodded solemnly, and for the first time, I felt like they truly understood. The night ended quietly after that. The guests were gone. The house was still. Just the three of us remained, sitting together in the lingering aftermath. It wasn't the Christmas I had hoped for, but at least for once the truth was out, and I wasn't the bad guy anymore.